There are moments in life when you have to walk alone. Not because you chose to, but because no one stayed. The calls stop coming, the texts go unanswered. The people who once promised to be there go silent. These moments aren't easy, but they are real. And if you're not strong enough to keep moving when no one else is around, you'll fall the moment someone walks away. That's why you must build your strength from the inside out, so when life gets quiet, you don't fall apart. This strength doesn't come from pretending to be tough. It comes from learning how to sit with yourself without fear, from learning how to be silent without feeling empty, from learning how to stand back up without waiting for someone to catch you. This video is for you if you're going through days like that. Listen slowly. Listen often. Choose one small thing from it to practice daily. And don't keep it to yourself. If someone you know is struggling quietly, send them this message. If something in this video speaks to you, drop a comment below. And if you need more reminders like this, subscribe. Because sometimes, one honest sentence can hold you together when everything else feels like it's falling apart. 1. Stop confusing loneliness with weakness. They never teach you this in school, how to sit with your own silence and not feel like you're failing. Most people grow up believing that strength is loud, social, and surrounded. The strong ones are always leading teams, answering calls, going out every weekend, always in motion, always seen. But there's another kind of strength, a quieter, deeper, more resilient strength. And it doesn't show up in crowded rooms. It shows up when you're alone. See, loneliness and weakness are not the same. In fact, the ability to face solitude without fear might be one of the clearest signs of inner power. You can have hundreds of contacts in your phone, thousands of followers online, and still feel completely invisible when the noise dies down. And that feeling, that silence, it's not a sign that something is broken. It's an invitation to sharpen your mental independence, to begin your inner strength training, to realize that no one can truly complete you but you. Most people run from loneliness, trying to escape it with distraction, connection, or noise. They think being alone is proof they're not enough. But that's backwards. Because when you can sit in a room by yourself, with no one praising you, no one checking in, no one validating your worth, and still feel grounded, that's a kind of emotional resilience most people never develop. That's how you build mental toughness. That's how you become emotionally unbreakable. It's not built in the crowd. It's built in the quiet. It's built when the only person you have to encourages you is the one in the mirror. That's the moment you begin mastering solitude, not escaping it. The truth is, there will be seasons when support fades, when friends get distant, when your name is no longer on anyone's radar. If your self-worth is tied to who stays, then you'll collapse when they go. But if it's rooted in something deeper, your purpose, your discipline, your quiet strength, then nothing can truly shake you. Loneliness becomes less of a punishment and more of a proving ground. You stop seeing it as emptiness and start seeing it as space. Space to grow, space to reflect, space to get clear. That's how peace starts. That's how mental clarity returns. And that's how you train yourself to be grounded even when life gets hard. Most people confuse being alone with being abandoned. But those are not the same. You're not abandoned just because the room is empty. You're not worthless just because the phone is silent. Sometimes solitude isn't rejection, it's redirection. It's life pulling you back to yourself, asking you to become the anchor instead of always looking for one. And yes, that process can be uncomfortable. It can feel like a loss. But what you're really losing are the illusions. The illusion that you need constant reassurance. The illusion that your value is based on your visibility. The illusion that you can't function without a support system. When those illusions fall away, you're left with something more solid, you. And once you've rebuilt your life on that foundation, nothing can truly shake it. This is how you begin to reclaim your peace stoically. You stop chasing connections that leave you empty. You stop trying to fill the silence with noise. You stop needing the world to applaud before you move forward. And instead you move, not because you're being watched, but because you decided. That's what quiet strength looks like. That's how mental independence is forged. That's how you become the kind of person who doesn't crumble when alone, but grows stronger. So the next time you find yourself in silence, don't rush to escape it. Stay, listen, breathe. Let that space become your teacher. Let that stillness build your resilience. And most of all, remember this: being alone isn't weakness, it's training. The solitude you fear may be the exact environment you need to grow into the strongest version of yourself. The world tells you that strength looks like dominance, control, and attention. But true power? True power is the ability to survive the quiet. And if you can do that, nothing, absolutely nothing, can shake you. 2. Turn silence into a weapon, not a wound. Most people run from silence like it's a threat. They turn up the volume, call someone, scroll endlessly, just to avoid sitting in stillness. But silence, when used intentionally, isn't weakness. It's a gym. Not for the body, but for the mind. Just like muscles are built in resistance, mental clarity is built in the absence of noise. The gym is rarely loud. It's quiet, repetitive, and focused, and it's where transformation begins. The same is true for silence. It's not empty. It's a structured space where your thoughts echo louder, and you can finally hear yourself without interruption. You might not realize it, but that quiet space, the one you try to avoid, is actually your training ground. It sharpens you in ways no conversation ever could. In a world where everyone rushes to speak, silence becomes a form of power. It becomes the ultimate test of self-control. When you sit in silence and resist the urge to explain, to defend, to react, you're no longer being ruled by your emotions. You're choosing response over reactivity. That's mental discipline. That's emotional resilience. Silence doesn't break you. It breaks the patterns that have kept you distracted and emotionally dependent. Most people confuse silence with absence, but in truth, it's the most present you'll ever be. It forces you to stop reaching outward and start searching inward. And what you'll find there, beneath the noise of opinions, fear, and pressure, is your own clarity, your own voice. That's where true inner strength begins. Not in shouting over others, but in mastering the art of saying nothing until your mind is aligned. There's a reason the strongest people often speak the least. They don't need to fill the room with sound to feel seen. They don't need external noise to feel valuable. Their silence is not emptiness. It's full of awareness, full of focus, full of self-command. You can train your mind the same way. Start by letting the silence stretch longer than your discomfort. Let it teach you where your emotional triggers lie. Let it reveal where your need for validation still hides. Over time, silence stops being awkward. It becomes armor. It becomes a strategy. You'll realize you don't need to chase every response, defend every decision, or prove your worth with noise. Your peace is proof enough. Sometimes, silence is how you reclaim your energy. You step back not to disappear, but to recenter. You disconnect not out of anger, but to rebuild your own foundation. This isn't detachment out of bitterness. This is quite a strength. This is self-mastery through solitude. And that mastery becomes your protection. You become the person who doesn't panic when others fall silent. You don't spiral when plans shift. You don't crumble when attention fades. Because you've already built a life that runs on something deeper than noise. The world tells you to speak up to be seen. But there's a deeper kind of visibility. The kind that doesn't come from volume, but from presence. When your energy is calm, grounded, and self-led, people feel it without you saying a word. Silence, when used well, becomes magnetic. It's what makes leaders compelling. It's what makes your boundaries unshakable. You're no longer controlled by what others expect you to say or feel. You say less, but everything you do say carries weight. And that's the goal, not to be louder, but to be rooted. So the next time you feel the urge to fill the space, pause. When the room goes quiet, let it. When no one texts back, wait. When life slows down, breathe. These moments aren't punishment, they're preparation. You're not being forgotten, you're being forged. You're learning the power of stillness, and that power, once developed, makes you unstoppable. You stop reacting, you start responding, you stop proving, you start owning. Because now, silence isn't the enemy. It's your training partner, and every minute you spend in it builds a stronger version of you. One that doesn't need the world to be loud to feel alive. One who knows silence isn't weakness. It's your edge, it's your weapon, and you've only just begun to use it. 3. Protect your peace like it's sacred. There was a night I remember clearly. I went to a gathering I didn't want to attend. I smiled because it was polite, I nodded through conversations I didn't care for, and I laughed at things that weren't even funny. The room was loud, full of energy, full of people, but I left that place more drained than ever. The moment I got home, I collapsed. Not from the physical exhaustion, but from how much of myself I had to give away just to maintain appearances. That was the night I realized something vital. I had traded my peace for politeness, and that's a price I no longer allow myself to pay. Protecting your peace isn't about being cold or distant. It's about recognizing that your mental clarity and emotional energy are limited, and not everyone does access to them. You're not selfish for pulling back. You're not rude for declining invitations. You're not heartless for not replying right away. You're choosing to prioritize your sanity over societal pressure. That decision, done consistently, is what builds a quiet strength, a grounded mindset, a life of mental independence. When your peace becomes sacred, your boundaries become non-negotiable. You stop attending every event just to please. You stop explaining yourself to people who only listen to respond. You stop stretching yourself thin for people who wouldn't lift a finger for you. Because here's the truth. If it costs your peace, it's too expensive. There's a strange expectation in our culture that being available all the time means you're kind. That being drained but still showing up means you're strong. But that's not a strength. That's emotional self-neglect. Real strength is knowing when to rest, when to say no, and when to walk away from conversations, people, or commitments that disturb your balance. It's the ability to disconnect from chaos without feeling guilty. When you protect your peace, you're not abandoning others, you're refusing to abandon yourself. You have to understand this. Not everyone is meant to sit at your table. Some people come with noise, with drama, with hidden expectations. They want access to you, but not responsibility for how they treat you. And if you're not careful, you'll keep the wrong people in your space just to avoid feeling lonely. But peace doesn't grow in crowded, chaotic rooms. It grows in places where your spirit can breathe. That means sometimes you'll need to choose silence over small talk, solitude over company, and stillness over stimulation. You'll need to learn how to pull back before you break down. And the more you practice this, the more your nervous system thanks you. Because your peace isn't a luxury. It's a foundation. People may misunderstand. They'll say you've changed. They'll think you've become distant, and maybe you have. But not because you stopped caring, because you started caring correctly. You started valuing your own well-being. You stopped shrinking to make others comfortable. You stopped sacrificing your sleep, your focus, your purpose just to be accepted. That's not selfishness. That's clarity. That's what happens when you reclaim control of your emotional boundaries and stop entertaining what drains you. You weren't put here to be constantly accessible. You weren't born to be everyone's fixer, everyone's listener, everyone's emotional outlet. You are allowed to say, "Not today." You are allowed to turn off your phone. You are allowed not to explain your every boundary. Peace doesn't require a debate. It only requires a decision. And once you decide to make it sacred, your entire life starts to shift. You'll attract less chaos. You'll spot manipulation faster. You'll stop overcommitting out of guilt. Because now, your identity isn't built around being needed. It's built around being aligned. The world won't teach you this. It will tell you to hustle, to be available, to reply fast, to never stop giving. But if you don't protect your peace, you'll burn out giving away what no one intends to give back. That's why you have to guard your time, energy, and emotions like they matter, because they do. They determine how you show up in the world. They shape your habits, your health, and your long-term resilience. So if something or someone is costing you your clarity, your stability, or your rest, step away. Not because you're weak, but because you're wise. Your peace is sacred. And the moment you start treating it that way, the world around you begins to reflect it, quietly, steadily, powerfully. 4. Build a life that doesn't crumble when left alone. Ask yourself something simple but honest. If your closest friend stopped calling tomorrow, would you still feel whole? If the person you love left your message on read for days, would your sense of worth remain? If your family grew silent out of anger or distance, would your peace survive? These questions aren't designed to hurt. They're designed to reveal. Because if your emotional stability depends on someone else's presence, you haven't built a life. You've borrowed one. And what's borrowed can always be taken away. This is why you must build a life that doesn't collapse when no one shows up. A life where your strength isn't conditional. A life where your identity isn't based on who supports you today, but on who you choose to be every day. The truth is, people come and go. Even the ones who love you. Even the ones who mean it. Life changes. Schedules shift. Priorities evolve. And sometimes, the people you thought would always be there simply won't be. It hurts, but it's not the end. It's a signal. A wake-up call to start anchoring your inner strength to something no one else can touch. That begins with taking ownership of your peace, your time, and your daily habits. If your life only functions when others are cheering you on, you'll fall apart when the applause fades. But if you've built your routines, your mindset, and your clarity on something internal, then their absence becomes space, not devastation. Too often, we outsource our emotional foundation. We lean on someone to always motivate us, always encourage us, and always validate us. But the moment they stop, we question everything. That's not resilience, that's emotional dependence. And emotional dependence is fragile. One shift, one silence, one goodbye, and the whole system crashes. But if you build yourself with emotional resilience habits, if you train your mind to lead instead of follow, if you learn how to stay grounded when life gets hard, then you'll stop fearing the quiet. You'll start using it. You'll realize that the strength to stand alone isn't coldness, it's maturity. Building this kind of life takes effort. It means taking responsibility for your routine instead of waiting for motivation. It means finding clarity in silence instead of letting fear fill it. It means becoming mentally tough without needing constant support. And yes, it gets lonely sometimes, but that loneliness, if handled with wisdom, becomes solitude. And solitude, if embraced with purpose, becomes power. It becomes the space where you stop performing for the world and start aligning with who you actually are. You stop proving, you start building. You stop begging, you start becoming. That shift changes everything. When you build a life that doesn't crumble when left alone, something powerful happens. People no longer control your peace. Their absence doesn't shake your identity. Their silence doesn't trigger your insecurity. You become rooted. Not in arrogance, but in clarity. You know who you are. You know what you value. You know what you're building. So when someone leaves, they don't take your foundation with them. They just free up space for more alignment. You stop holding on out of fear. You let go with peace. Because your peace no longer depends on who stays. It depends on how solid you've become when no one else is looking. And this isn't about closing yourself off. It's about opening your life in a way that doesn't collapse under pressure. It's about creating something within you that's steady, focused, unshakable. So ask yourself again, if the people you lean on most disappeared tomorrow, would your days still move with purpose? Would your mornings still start with discipline? Would your thoughts still return to growth, not grief? That's the real test. That's real life. Because people will come and go, seasons will shift, but the one person who will be with you in every room, every decision, every valley is you. So start building for that. Build so strong that silence becomes support. Build so clearly that no one's absence can break your momentum. And build so deep that even alone you still rise, every single time. 5. Let isolation sharpen your identity. A blade, when first forged, is just raw metal, shapeless, dull, unfinished. It doesn't come sharp. It must be refined, pressed, and ground down in silence before it ever becomes useful. People are no different. We want clarity, we want strength, we want purpose, but we try to find it in the crowd, in applause, in constant connection. Yet the truth is, the shaping of identity happens alone. Isolation isn't punishment. It's the whetstone. When life starts to pull you away from others, when group chats go silent, when your weekends empty out, when seen is the only reply you get, it doesn't mean you've lost value. It means you're finally in the right place to see yourself clearly. You're not being left behind, you're being shaped. It's in those quiet seasons that the real work begins. You start noticing which habits were just for show. You begin seeing which goals were actually yours, and which ones you adopted to impress someone else. You recognize how much energy you've wasted trying to be someone you're not. In the stillness, distractions fall away, and what remains is the unfiltered version of you. This is where your true strength takes form. You stop performing. You start paying attention. You stop reacting. You begin refining. That's the quiet shift. That's how you move from borrowed identity to earned clarity. Most people fear isolation because they confuse it with rejection. They think if no one's around, they've done something wrong. But solitude doesn't erase your worth, it reveals it. Because when no one else is watching, your choices become more honest. You don't wake up for approval. You wake up for alignment. You don't journal for validation. You do it because you're finally hearing your thoughts without the volume of others. And you don't dream for applause. You dream because something inside you refuses to stay small. In isolation, you begin emotional resilience training without even realizing it. You find out how much noise was masking your discomfort, how much company was numbing your confusion, and when all of that fades, the truth appears. It may not be pretty at first. You'll see your procrastination. You'll meet your fears. You'll face the parts of yourself you've ignored. But in that confrontation lies transformation, because clarity always comes after confrontation with yourself. The longer you sit in that quiet space, the clearer the picture becomes. Not the image you project to the world, but the one that's been buried beneath years of pretending. That version of you, the one being sharpened in the dark, is the one who will carry you when storms hit. Not the crowd pleaser, not the overachiever, not the people pleaser, but the grounded, clear, fully owned self that learned to thrive without a spotlight. When you embrace isolation with intention, it stops being lonely. It becomes powerful. Because now you're no longer pulled in 100 directions. You're finally walking in one, yours. You also start to build something rare, self-trust. Not because someone told you you're enough, but because you finally saw that you are. You start trusting your thoughts, your instincts, and your decisions. You begin filtering out noise faster. You sense misalignment sooner. You make fewer excuses and more real moves. That's what identity forged in solitude creates. Focus without friction, direction without confusion, stability that doesn't need applause. And eventually, when people return, when invitations come again, when life fills back up, you won't be the same. You'll no longer say yes to things that dilute you. You'll no longer keep relationships that silence you. You'll no longer chase roles that don't fit. You'll show up as someone whole, not someone half-present, hoping to be liked. And the people who truly belong in your life will meet that version of you, not the one you had to perform to be accepted. So if you're in that space right now, alone, unsure, in between, don't rush to escape it. Let it do what it came to do. Let it break off the fake. Let it refine the truth. Let it sharpen you like steel, because no strong identity is handed to you. It's forged in quiet hours, in hard decisions, in total honesty. You are not being punished, you are being shaped. And when you rise from this place, you will not just be stronger, you will be you. 6. Don't shrink to be accepted. Stand to be respected. There were moments I'd rehearse what I wanted to say, then delete the message. I'd tell myself, maybe it's too much. I'd stay quiet in meetings, let others take credit, say yes to plans I didn't enjoy, all because I didn't want to come off as difficult. I'd ask myself, if I speak up, will they think I'm being dramatic? If I decline this invite, will they stop including me? If I say what I really feel, will they leave? Those questions circled in my head every time I shrank a little more, every time I watered myself down, every time I traded authenticity for approval. And yet, the hardest part wasn't the silence or the sacrifice, it was the slow erosion of self-respect. Because here's what I learned the hard way. Being accepted while you abandon yourself is a quiet form of self-betrayal. And no amount of approval can make up for that. So I stopped. I stopped filtering my truth just to fit. I stopped apologizing for my tone just because someone else was uncomfortable with my clarity. I stopped saying yes when my whole body meant no. And something changed. I didn't gain more people, I lost a few. But what I gained was louder, my own voice, my own peace, my own alignment. Because the truth is, if you constantly shrink yourself to be accepted, you'll never know if people actually respect who you are, or just the version you curated to keep them close. And one day, you'll wake up exhausted, overextended, and unsure of who you even are anymore. That's why standing your ground isn't ego, it's identity. And if your presence makes people uncomfortable, let it. You're not here to make everyone feel safe by playing small. You're not here to trade your boundaries for breadcrumbs of affection. You're not here to live your life as a performance. You're here to lead yourself. And leadership starts with truth, with quiet strength, with firm self-respect. You'll know you've grown when you'd rather be alone than be tolerated, when silence feels better than being misunderstood in every room you walk into, when you stop bending yourself into versions that please everyone but cost you your clarity. Some people won't like the version of you that stops shrinking. They'll say you've changed. They'll call you distant. They might even guilt you for not being who you used to be. But what they're really saying is, you've stopped making yourself smaller so high can feel bigger. And that's not your responsibility. The moment you realize that respect is not earned through pleasing, it's earned through presence, is the moment your relationships begin to transform. Not all of them will survive, but the ones that do will be built on something real, something rooted, something mutual. To stand and be respected, you don't have to shout. You don't need to be aggressive or loud. You just need to stop negotiating your worth. You need to stop explaining your boundaries as if they require permission. You need to stop playing small just to keep people comfortable with your dimmed light. Real self-mastery is quiet. It's the way you hold eye contact when someone tests your number. It's the way you walk away from situations that don't serve you without offering an essay to justify your exit. It's the way you choose solitude over performance, self-trust over external validation. You weren't created to be agreeable at your own expense. You weren't meant to suppress your thoughts, ignore your values, or wear a mask just to be invited back into the room. You were meant to be whole, grounded, centered, whether you are surrounded or standing alone. The moment you stop shrinking, your world won't collapse. It will actually get clearer. You'll see who's still there when you're no longer bending. You'll feel stronger when your peace isn't bought through performance. And you'll finally understand that being respected isn't about how many people like you. It's about how deeply you're willing to honor yourself. If you've spent years dimming your light to fit into someone else's world, it's time to reclaim your power. Not by becoming hard, but by becoming whole. And that starts when you stop shrinking to be accepted and start standing to be respected. The people who matter won't ask you to dim. They'll rise to meet your light, or they'll step aside quietly. Either way, you remain unshaken, unbothered, unapologetically you. 7. Be so grounded that nothing can shake you. Have you ever watched a storm tear through a field? The trees with shallow roots are the first to fall, tall, even beautiful, but weak beneath the surface. Yet the trees with deep roots, even if their branches bend, even if they lose a few leaves, remain standing. Life is no different. The storms will come. Plans will fall apart. People you thought would never leave will walk away. Jobs will disappear. Dreams will collapse. And the real question isn't whether the storm will hit, but whether you're rooted deep enough to withstand it. Most people spend their lives building high, not deep. They chase recognition, applause, and validation. But when adversity hits, none of that can hold them up. Because strength that depends on external support is always temporary. You have to be grounded in something that doesn't shake when everything else does. That grounding comes from inner discipline, not outer praise. It's built in the mornings no one sees, in the decisions you make when no one is watching, in the resilience you develop through quiet, consistent effort. If your sense of peace depends on people agreeing with you, liking you, or staying close, then your life is at the mercy of conditions you can't control. And that means every small shift, every disagreement, every moment of silence can unbalance you. That's no way to live. True strength isn't measured by how loud you are when things go right. It's measured by how calm you stay when things go wrong. When you stop living on the highs of compliments and start anchoring yourself in clear values and purpose, that's when you become untouchable. Being grounded doesn't mean you don't feel pain. It means pain doesn't move your foundation. It means betrayal doesn't distort your identity. It means the noise outside doesn't drown out the voice within. And when that voice is clear, when it speaks with purpose and direction, you become centered, Not because life is gentle, but because you've trained your mind to remain steady under pressure. This is mental strength. This is emotional resilience. This is self-mastery through solitude. And it's not glamorous, it's not loud, it's not posted online, but it's what makes you unshakable in a world that moves fast and often without warning. To build that level of grounding, you must start with clarity. Clarity about who you are, what you value, and what you refuse to tolerate. You must examine what shakes you now. Is it rejection, criticism, uncertainty? Whatever it is, that's the place to grow roots. Face it, feel it, and then choose not to be ruled by it. Strength doesn't come from avoiding storms, it comes from withstanding them. And once you've done that enough times, you stop fearing chaos. You stop panicking when things shift. Because you've already proven to yourself that even if you lose something on the surface, the foundation remains. You remain. This kind of self-built peace can't be handed to you. It can't be borrowed from someone else's encouragement. It must come from within. You must become so centered in your identity, so aligned with your direction, that nothing outside of you can shake your core. And yes, this takes work. It takes silence. It takes saying no to what's popular and yes to what's right. It takes building slowly, deeply, and really. But it's worth it, because when others break down under pressure, you stand up. When others lose themselves in fear, you stay present. When others chase applause, you choose alignment. And here's the thing. Once you're grounded, you don't need to shout to be seen. People feel the difference. There's a quiet confidence that comes with inner strength, a kind of peace that can't be faked. You walk into rooms differently. You speak with fewer words but more weight. You respond, not react. You protect your peace not through walls but through wisdom. And when the next storm comes, you don't flinch. You've already weathered worse in silence. So be the person who is rooted, not swayed. Build a life from the inside out, not the outside in. And remember, it's not about avoiding difficulty. It's about becoming so grounded that even when life gets loud, fast, and uncertain, you stay steady. Not because the world is calm, but because you are. The ability to survive alone is not a weakness. It's the foundation of real strength. When you train yourself to stay grounded in silence, to protect your peace without guilt, and to stop shrinking just to fit in, you build a version of yourself that no loss, no absence, and no noise can shake. This kind of mental independence doesn't come overnight. It's shaped through solitude, through quiet mornings of clarity, through days when no one checks in but you keep showing up for yourself anyway. And as you continue, your emotional resilience grows. You stop depending on approval. You stop chasing comfort. Instead, you lead yourself. Let solitude sharpen you. Let stillness strengthen your spirit. And most of all, trust that the quiet seasons are not wasted. They're where you become unbreakable. Now it's your turn. Have you ever gone through a time when you had to rebuild yourself alone? What helped you stay grounded? Share your story in the comments below. It might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if this video spoke to something deep in you, don't forget to like and subscribe. This is just the beginning of your journey toward mental strength, inner peace, and emotional self-mastery. Keep showing up for you.